Hi, I'm Papia. In this problem, we have a polynomial g and the expression is x cubed minus 3x squared plus x plus 5. We have to write this polynomial as a product of linear factors and then list all the zeros. Well, you know that each zero corresponds to a factor and vice versa. Now, notice that this is a degree 3 polynomial, so it will have 3 zeros. So, we can start by checking if there are any real zeros. So, how to find possible rational zeros? Well, you know that the possible rational zeros, which will be real zeros, they can be found this way. It's the factors of the constant term, and the constant term is 5, divided by factors of the leading coefficient, and the leading coefficient is right here, it's 1. Okay, so what are the factors of 5? It's either plus or minus 1 or plus or minus 5. And what are the factors of 1? They are just plus minus 1. So what are the possible rational zeros that this g can have? Okay, so let's see, plus minus 1 divided by plus minus 1, it's just plus or minus 1. And when you divide that by 5, you get either plus minus 5. So there can be 4 possible rational zeros. Well, we can start checking one at a time which one will be a 0. So we can easily do it by synthetic division. So let's start with x equals 1. Let's check if x equals 1 is a 0 or not. Well, you know synthetic division, you write down the coefficients of g. So we have 1, negative 3, 1, and 5. And I'm checking x equals 1. So let's put 1 here. Okay, you bring down this 1. 1 times 1 is 1. You add 1 minus 3 minus 2. Multiply negative 2 with 1, you get negative 2. Add with 1 again. So negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. Again, you multiply negative 1 with 1, you get negative 1. Plus 5 is 4. So do you remember what that means? Well, this is not 0. So the remainder is not 0, which means x equals 1 is not a 0. Okay, so you have to discard that. Let's move on. Let's take the next number. How about x equals negative 1? So let's try that. Okay. So we take the coefficients again, 1, negative 3, 1, and 5. And this time we use negative 1. So bring down 1. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. Add with negative 3, you get negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 1 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. And when you add with 5, you do get a 0. So there you go. We have found 1 0, and that's x equals negative 1. So this is a 0 of g. Okay, so as soon as we found 1 0, we can start writing down the linear factors of this polynomial. So let's start doing that. So the function is x cubed minus 3x squared plus x plus 5. And we found out that x equals negative 1 is a 0, which means one of the factors of this polynomial will be x plus 1. Okay, so think about it. This is a degree 3 polynomial. We found a linear factor. So what will remain here? A degree 2, right? And that's a quadratic expression. So can we figure out what is remaining? It's very easy actually. You already have the coefficients of that quadratic polynomial right here. Do you see that? Those are the coefficients. So yes, you can write down this remaining factor right here. And it will be, so this is the coefficient for x squared, x, and the constant term. So we will have x squared negative 4x plus 5. So we have to find 2 more zeros, remember? And how can we find those 2 zeros? By setting this quadratic expression equal to 0. And then we'll have a quadratic equation. We can just use the quadratic formula. So let's try that. So we now want x squared minus 4x plus 5 to be equal to 0. Just use the quadratic formula. So x is equal to negative of b, negative of negative 4 plus or minus square root b square, so negative 4 square minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 5, divided by 2a, 2 times 1. So let's simplify. We have positive 4 plus minus square root. Okay, so this is negative 4 squared, so that's positive 16 minus 4 times 5, that's 20, divided by 2, that's equal to 4 plus or minus 16 minus 20, so that's negative 4. And that negative 4 is inside the square root, divided by 2. You know what square root of negative 1 is? It's I. So you know that these are the complex zeros. So you can divide by 2. So you get 4 divided by 2 is 2 plus minus. This is a square root of 4. So 2 will come out and that will cancel with the 2. So you will just have I left here. So we found the 2 zeros and therefore we can write down the factors corresponding to them. So let's do that. We already have x plus 1. Now the next factor will be corresponding to the 0, 2 plus I. So we get x minus of 2 plus I. And the last one corresponding to 2 minus I. So x minus of 2 minus I. If you want, you can distribute the negative sign and write one more step. And this will be these are the linear factors of g. One is x plus 1. One is x minus 2 minus I. And x minus 2 plus I. So that's the first part of the problem. And then we also have to list all the zeros of g. Well, the zeros are negative 1 and the 2 zeros that we found here. One is 2 plus I, one is 2 minus I. To finish, we have to check our result using a graphing utility. You can graph the function that completes the problem. Thank you.